Alright, let's talk about this Diddy documentary. Now, if no one has seen, 50 Cent dropped he produced a documentary on Netflix called P. Diddy The Reckoning. So, first off, I didn't even know about this documentary till, I was scrolling through social media and I had seen, it was this comedian and he was saying, how much do you have to hate to do to drop a documentary on him and everything, and I was just like, I'm like, wait, what? And so, sure enough, I go to Netflix and I just see, the P Diddy situation. Now, I already knew about, P Diddy and all his, his situations and everything, with him putting his hands on Cassie and him, all the stories about how he was so protective of Cassie and if anyone did anything, and just a bunch of stuff. So basically, this documentary just pretty much goes from his childhood into you know his record label and then everything that's going on right now, pretty much. And so my first thought on this is like, wow, this dude is something. He's something. He's crazy. That was just my first thought. My second thought was, this dude is this dude is grimy. I don't lie, he's grimy. Now his upbringing was, his mom would throw parties and everything like that, and obviously he would be present for the parties and whatnot, and it was just like, okay, so you get this from your mom. Like, your mom is just as crazy as you are, and she's hosting, parties for people, you know, pretty much, she's friends of, and people in the neighborhood, people in the city, they come through, they celebrate, do whatever, this, that, or whatever. Now, the part that got me in the documentary was when they got into the death row bad boy rivalry or whatever. It all started because a female. So basically, Suge Knight was talking to a girl in LA, and just so happens P. Diddy wanted that girl because Suge Knight had her, and then when everything happened, that's when, you know, all the beef started pretty much. And it was just like, I'm like, wait, what? That shit is crazy. That's dumb. But, now see, all of this is, but then again, it's like, okay, like all of this starts because of, you got a female out here you're talking to, and you don't want her to have them. But like, one thing they did show in the documentary is like when they, like, one of P. Diddy's friends said this exactly. He was like, if he's seen, you had a girl, he had to have her, pretty much. Which comes to the Kim Porter situation, his ex-wife. Um, so Kim Porter was dating Al B. Shore at the time. Al B. Shore, and Kim Porter had a son who was Quincy Brown, who P. Diddy legally adopted, which I still don't know how that even happened. I'm still wondering what even went through that whole thing for it to even be a thing. But I'm guessing because they were married, that's stepson. So I don't know. To me, it's like, huh? Like, what? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. But I mean, hey, I don't know. I don't know how that whole ordeal went. But all I know is if I got a son out there, I'm damn sure not letting my son be raised by this motherfucker. I'm coming in, I'm fighting for something. I'm getting, what I'm saying? I'm coming in, I'm getting my kid back for sure. Because there's no way I'm letting my son be raised by P. Diddy. It's not happening. I wouldn't let it happen. And I'll be sure knew P. Diddy. He jokingly was like, me and Kim, like, we ain't dating no more. So, I mean, she free to date whoever she want. And then he said jokingly, I said, oh yeah, if you get with him, make sure you have, kids by him because he's gonna be rich. And he was, I said that jokingly, not knowing that it would really happen. I'm just like, oh man, you already know what happened with that. But P Diddy, like certain things, like you've seen, it was just like, okay, this is a repeat type of thing. You know what I'm saying? Because like certain things would happen, and then you know, he would exert the same behavior later on. So with that whole, I gotta have, that woman. I'm gonna do anything to get that woman. That's basically what he did. You know what I'm saying? And then another thing that got me in the documentary was when when uh when he got Biggie to sign to his label. Biggie and Tupac were best friends. Like, what I'm saying? They knew each other before all of the, record labels and all of that stuff happened. They knew each other, they were friends, they hung out. Biggie even opened up for Tupac sometimes and everything, and they would kick it with each other, hang with each other. And Diddy seen that, and he didn't like it. He didn't like how they were becoming friends, pretty much. And I was just like, well, why not? And so Tupac's cousin was basically saying like, well, P Diddy didn't like the fact that he couldn't, you know, control Tupac. Like, he asked Pac like, oh yeah, I want you to work with me on the project. And Tupac was like, nah, I'm cool. I don't want to work with you. And P Diddy was like, well, damn, like, why you don't want to work with me? And then he see that he was like, I'll work with Big and only Big, but I don't want to work. I don't want to work with you. Like, I'll work with him, but I ain't working with you, pretty much. And the way Diddy seen it, it was just like, what the fuck? Like, you don't respect me? Like, okay. And so one thing I did notice too was even in like the movie when when Tupac when Tupac went to Quad Studios and he was shot, you know, obviously it just so happens that Biggie and them was there. They was recording, and everything. Even C's Biggie's homie at the time. He was like, yo, I seen him. I'm on the balcony smoking. I see him. I call him up. He come up. Next thing you know, I get off the elevator. I see two niggas pointing the gun at me, telling me, get back in the elevator. I got back in the elevator. I told Big, and everything like that. And next thing you know, he go like now. See, here's the thing. To Tupac, it was like, damn, like anybody could be after me. Like, it could be anybody. But when he went to jail and he heard who shot you for the first time, it was like, wait a minute, like did Big set me up to get shot? Like, and here's the thing though, Big made who shot you months before, and Diddy just so happens to drop that when Tupac got shot. Like, to me, that's like, okay, yeah, you trying to start something so that way you start a beef and then separate Big and Pac from each other. Because, like I said, they was friends up until that point. It wasn't until he heard who shot you that he was like, yo, Big and Diddy out to get me. They trying to kill me. Da da da. And so if who shot you wouldn't have dropped, trust me, Tupac wouldn't have tried to put two and two together. But I will say that it's not hard to put like two niggas like in Pac's little entourage. Like, hey, if y'all do this, I'll give y'all this. You know what I'm saying? It's not hard to plant that little seed in there or whatever. And so to me, that was kind of like I'm like, ooh, like that don't look too good, you know. And so when the whole thing happened, it was, how can I put it? It was like, yo, Diddy can really like conspire and manipulate people, like, and that's what he could do. Majority of the time, I'm looking through this documentary. I'm like, bro, like all these people that Diddy encountered, he was easy to manipulate them, get them to thinking like, oh, okay, he's gonna pay me, he's gonna pay me, he's gonna pay me, type thing. You know what I'm saying? Because like with most of his artists, most of his artists, it wasn't like, um, oh yeah, I got paid, I got this, I got that, whatever, whatever. He's basically saying, I'll give you the fame, but you won't get the fortune. You know what I'm saying? Like, you won't get no money, but you'll be known. And that's basically what he sold people on. You know what I'm saying? You know, when you sign to Bad Boy, you'll get a bonus. He'll give you a check right then and there. But then you dropping albums, you dropping this, you dropping that, and you don't see any money. You know what I'm saying? Like Craig Mack and Biggie were his two biggest artists at one time. And this nigga Craig Mack was like, I haven't seen no money. I got probably one of the best songs, one of the best remixes at this time, and I haven't seen no kind of money whatsoever. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And and Biggie is his next biggest artist. Now, I can't speak for Big. Like, I don't, like, as far as I know, he was just trying to do his thing. But I will say that after Gene was Biggie's security guard. So to him, he was like, "Yo, I'm trying to get out of Bad Boy," and to Gene, he was like, "Me and Big talked all the time. Big was trying to get out of Bad Boy and start his own label, And Gene's story hasn't changed since like 4 years, 4 or 5 years ago. He's had the same story ever since. He blames Diddy for Biggie getting killed because he told him like, "Hey, look, we gotta get we gotta get out of LA. We can't go here to this party because if we go to this party, someone's gonna get shot. I have intel. Let's not go. Let's do this. Let's do that. Do whatever, whatever, whatever." Now, here's the part that had me like, "What?" So according to Diddy, Diddy was like, Big wanted to go to LA, Big wanted to stay in LA, da 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 da, which is fake because um the day before Big died, um the um the co-founder of Bad Boy, who was P Diddy's best friend at that time, he basically Big called him and was like, "Yo, we need to hurry up and get out of LA. I don't want to be in LA anymore. Like, let's like, yo, I'm ready to go. Let's get out of here." And so he had it to where they were supposed to go to London. The day Big died, they were supposed to go to London that morning. They were supposed to go to London. The dude had the plane tickets set up and everything. Like, he was like, "Yeah, the next morning we'll get out of here. We're gonna leave. We're gonna go to London." So this nigga Diddy calls him and is like, "Hey, cancel the flight. Big is staying in LA. We need him to stay in LA." And he's like, "Why?" And he hung up the phone. He didn't explain why or anything. He just hung up the phone. He said, "Cancel the flight," then hung up the phone. I was like, well, that's kind of weird. Like, why wouldn't you explain why you want him to stay? Like, it's basically like, "Oh, okay, I want to keep him here for a reason." And it's like, okay. Now, see, this is the part where I'm like, okay, now you lost me. Because think about this. What more do you have to gain from your biggest artist being killed? You know what I'm saying? You get a lot to gain from your biggest artist being killed off, and then you reaping all the benefits after that. That's what had me thinking like, okay, this nigga's he's a little grimy. I ain't gonna lie, because think about this. You're not a rapper. You're an executive producer. You're the owner. You don't rap. You the hype man. You the hype man. He's the biggest artist. Whenever anyone thinks of Bad Boy, who you think of? Biggie Smalls, Notorious B.I.G. You think of him and him only. You don't think of P Diddy. You don't think of this person, that person. You don't think of anything. Your first thought is, okay, Biggie Smalls. That's it. That's all. You don't think of nothing else. You know what I'm saying? And then, so now you want all eyes on you, pretty much. So what better way to do this? Now, the night in question where Biggie got killed, it was like, okay, it's cool. Nothing's gonna happen. Here's the part where Gene should have been in this documentary. What Gene was saying should have been in the documentary. But I mean, you can easily go look up Gene's interview with Vlad. He got interviews with hip hop. He with hip hop YouTube channel. He got he got the same story every single time. This nigga Diddy had the same car, same model. Him and Big Joe, the same model car. They had it marked too. That was another thing that people didn't see either. Both cars, one car was marked, one wasn't. You know what I'm saying? So it was like someone can tell, like, okay, I'm looking for Biggie Smalls specifically. You know, and so Gene says he saw a person sitting in a car and waiting, and he pulled up to the car. Gene is in the car with Diddy, and he sees the car roll up to them first and stop, and then just back up basically. Like he see, it's like the dude looked and saw it was them and just backed up like, oh okay, wait, no, this ain't it. And so they drive off. They drive to a stoplight. Diddy says, "Hey, run the stoplight." The dude runs the stoplight. Biggie just so happens to stop. When he stops, that's when the shots go off. And it's like, wait a minute. Like, if we would have stopped here, we, you know, who knows? Like, if we both would have stopped at this light, what would have happened? You know what I mean? And it's like, yo, like, why does it seem like this was orchestrated for Biggie to die? And it's just like, dude, like, could Diddy have set this up to, to reap more, and everything like that? And it's like, dude, like I said, all of this is hearsay, it's alleged, I don't know, but it's just the way things seem. You know what I'm saying? It's the way things look. Things look as if, like, okay, I wanted this to happen for a reason. The part that got me in this whole thing was Biggie's funeral. Diddy says, he tells everybody, like, oh, this is Big's funeral. I'm gonna make this the biggest funeral in New York. Da 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 da. So P Diddy's best friend says basically like, oh, I'm not gonna pay for the funeral. Biggie's gonna pay for the funeral. I was like, wait, what? I'm like, that is grimy. So basically, he uses Biggie's estate to pay for the funeral. And I'm like, no way. This is a legend. This is coming out of his friend's mouth. This ain't coming out of. This ain't me. This is his friend saying it. His friend is like, he said he's gonna make Biggie pay for his own funeral. He's gonna use Biggie's estate, pay for the funeral, everything like that. And I'm like, that is grimy, bro. That's grimy as shit. Like, that's fucked up. You know, I'm telling other people like, oh, you seem surprised by that. I'm like, yeah, nigga. I'm like, bro, you gotta have some type of morals. You know what I'm saying? Like, your artist just died, and you mean to tell me you not going, just, and so called that's your best friend, and oh yeah, big, that's my best friend, that's my homie. Da 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 da. I feel close to everybody, and things of that nature and all of it, and it's just like, what you made, like, you dipped into his cheese and made him, and you paid his funeral with his money. Like, that's crazy. And then they talk about the Tupac murder as well, and obviously this is news now because Vlad done did his investigation, and he done got Keefy D to talk about it, and he get everybody's recollection, to what happened and everything. Even in the Dear Mama documentary for Tupac on Hulu, by the way, they kind of talk about that as well. They talk about that day in particular. And so what happened was, Diddy had ties to Keefy D because Keefy D was friends with P. Diddy's, I want to say, uncle. His uncle. His uncle has ties to the Crip community in L.A. So that's how they met through Keefy D and everything. And Keefy D says that oh, P. Diddy says hey yo, if I put $1 million on these niggas' heads, I want y'all to take them out. That's basically what he says. And Keefy D was like, oh, word? He's like, so if we get it, we get money? And they're like, yeah. So he was like, "Oh yeah, how much?" He was like, $1 million. Like, I give you, 500K for Tupac, 500K for Suge. That's basically what happened. So it just so happens that they were in Vegas, and the whole thing with Orlando Anderson, that's the dude that killed Tupac, pretty much. Um, so basically, after the fight, one of Tupac's people in his entourage was like, "Yo, dude tried to steal my chain," and Tupac was like, "Where he at?" And then he's like, "Oh, that's him right there." They point out Orlando Anderson, they jump him, beat him up. Next thing they on their own, and Orlando goes back and tells KBD like, "Yo, they just jumped me," and he was like, "Who?" He was like, "Yo, it's Death Row, it's Tupac." He was like, "Oh, word, it's the perfect time, right time, right place." So they pull up on Pac, you know, because like they was looking for him the whole night, but they didn't find him. It wasn't until some girl pointed like, "Oh, that's Tupac," and he was like, "Oh, there you go." So they pull up beside him, shoot him, kill him, whatever. So the dude that was friends with Diddy, his uncle, he was like, "Oh, he was like, hey yo, we got Tupac," and he was like, "Word." He's like, "All right, bet I'm gonna send y'all the 500K." Now let, now this Keith D was like, we never received the rest of the money. We received a little bit, but we didn't receive all of it. Now y'all can go back and look at that and see for yourselves and see exactly what he said. And then they said, to their recollection, nothing was received at all. So that's another thing. That's another thing that you could really see, that they didn't receive nothing, so they have no reason to be like, oh, we never got paid, so fuck it, we're gonna tell you what happened. But Tupac isn't on trial for Tupac's murder or anything like that, so they're not really seeking any charges for that either. So it doesn't really matter, which is kind of fucked up because like when you think about it, this nigga, it feel like this nigga Diddy orchestrated two murders on two of the biggest hip hop stars at this time in the '90s. Nobody was bigger than Pac and Big. Like those are probably the two biggest hip hop stars you ever gonna see. You know what I'm saying? And then for you to orchestrate it so both of them get taken out, and then you just come in out of nowhere and just, you know, do the craziest thing. And then after Big dies, and I remember this. I remember this. I remember watching it on TV. When Big died, you see Diddy come out with Sting, and they're singing, "Missing You." Him and Faith Evans, they made a song for Big or whatever, and he's basically, the spotlight is on him pretty much. You know what I'm saying? And what better way for to get sympathy than your biggest star dying, and then you're here performing, making albums, becoming a big star because people are like, oh man, they're like Biggie died, so we gotta support Big, and what better way than supporting Diddy because like, oh, that was his star. You see where I'm going with that? That's why it doesn't make sense to me, and it's like it's crazy because like you're basically playing the sympathy card. Like you're getting sympathy because like, oh yeah, this is my man, it's my best friend. But behind the scenes, you basically like, well, hey, this is a big way for me to make money. This is a big way for me to make money. So once that's done and over with, what are you doing now? You're becoming this big rap star. You're becoming the mogul now. You making clothes, you making albums, you bringing in, you doing reality TV now. You doing all these things left and right, and it's like yo, like this nigga, like he know what he doing. He knows what he's doing, and he ain't slick to me. He ain't slick at all to me. Like I know grimy when I see it. And then it comes to him, you know, manipulating the people in making the band. You know what I'm saying? Like him basically telling them like, oh, I want you to, do this, do that, and, but you don't get no money from it. And like to me, it's like, bro, like I understand like the fame is it worth it? Is it worth it? Like it's not really worth it's not worth me having to do whatever this motherfucker says. It's not worth it, you know, putting everything on the line just to say, oh yeah, y'all know me, I'm on TV. Like, no, no, bro, it's not worth it. It's not worth it at all. Like, even even one of the girls from Danity Kane, the girl's name was Aubrey O'Day. She received emails, sexual emails from Diddy, and she never acted on any of it, and he ended up firing her for not, giving it up basically. And it's like, damn. And then they end up canceling Danity Kane, and then that's when Diddy Dirty Money comes out because he gets one of the girls from Danity Kane, Dawn. He puts Dawn with Kaylina. I probably said her name wrong, but they start Diddy Dirty Money pretty much, and they doing their own thing or whatever, and then you get with the band, the rap group, and they're doing their things or whatever, and that group was good, but they had their little things too. Obviously, you know, Chopper, he come out basically saying like, oh, Diddy was sleeping with Sarah and Fred was sleeping with Sarah too, and this is like, bro, like this nigga just he don't give a damn, like he just out here, like it don't matter. And then we get to the whole Cassie situation, and the Cassie situation was fucking insane, bro. This dude, and it's like the way he had her looking is kind of the way like how his first his first baby mom Misa, like it's kind of like she looked kind of like her in a way. He had her looking exactly like her, and everything like that. And he's still married to Kim Porter while dating Cassie. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like what the fuck? Like she would come around, and Kim Porter would be like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, go talk to the other bitch. Like, obviously they get a divorce after all that because Kim Porter couldn't put up with it. But like the thing with Cassie was like she was dating somebody at the time, and whenever he was around, Diddy would act, like, nah, we need to get this nigga the fuck out of here. Pretty much, I don't want this nigga around, basically. And it got to a point where Cassie stopped bringing that nigga around, and then that was when him and her got more connected and more connected and more connected. So much to the point that they obviously started dating, and then Diddy's assistant, she she was like, she confided in Cassie confided into her, and they would talk and text and everything like that, and she was basically hanging out with Kid Cudi, and her and Kid Cudi were just basic friends. They were just kicking it, hanging, talking, chilling, whatever, you know. And that was when the whole thing with Diddy trying to kill him. So the thing is, this nigga Diddy takes the assistant and was like, no, we're going to Cudi's house right now. I'm gonna kill this nigga. The nigga has a gun. He goes to Kid Cudi's house and is looking for him, trying to kill him. And the assistant texts Cassie and is like, hey, we're at Cudi's house, and like Diddy's about to kill him. And she was like, well, Kid Cudi's with me. We're literally walking down the street. And she was like, okay, he says if you don't, like, where you at? We about to come and get you. She was like, well, come and get me. So they went and go get her. I don't know what date it was where Kid Cudi's car supposedly blew up, So I don't know how that ordeal went, but that's still a crazy ass story to say. And I'm gonna tell you right now, this nigga Kid Cudi has been silent ever since. I don't know what he on, I don't know what he doing, but he need to say something because that whole thing is crazy, bro. And then it gets to the point where he's abusing her all the time and hitting her, and then you see the video of them at the hotel where she's trying to leave, and he ends up grabbing her and dragging her and everything like that, and people are just acting like ain't nothing happened. And it's just like, bro, like this nigga can, he can't do no wrong. He did all of this on video, and then it's just like, okay, we're just gonna act like nothing happened. And then the one thing that irritates my soul is when this documentary dropped, a whole bunch of people online saying, man, 50 Cent is a fucked up nigga for trying to take down a black man, and exposing things that we shouldn't have seen and everything like that. And I'm with it. So it's his fault that P Diddy did all of this shit and recorded it, and it's known. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, the dude, at a young age, mind you, he recorded him sexually abusing a girl who was passed out drunk. No, not even drunk, passed out drugged. She was drugged, and he recorded it and played it at parties. And I was just like, I'm like, yo, this dude is evil, bro. He's evil. And I'm not gonna bash 50 Cent for dropping this. I'm glad he dropped it. I'm glad you dropped it because I already knew the nigga P Diddy was weird in the first place. This just further explains, you know, the legend or the darkness of this nigga Diddy. And 50 didn't like Diddy in the first place anyway. So this is even more reason for him to do it. And now here's the thing though, how did 50 obtain the footage? How did 50 obtain the footage? He obtained the footage because this nigga Diddy was recording stuff for when he got out of jail, and he was gonna drop this to Netflix. That was the thing. So he ends up not paying the dude who was recording all the videos and stuff. He was like, okay, cool. And 50's like, oh, okay. How much you want for it? The dude said, oh, you can give me 500K. He was like, cool. I'll give you 1.5. 1.5 million for this footage. You can have it. You can have it because Diddy ain't gonna pay me no way. He's not gonna pay me. So what's the point of me holding on to it? Come on now, bro. You trying to get over on people by selling them dreams instead of really giving them what they're asking for. You know what I'm saying? And then you got all these dudes, Lil Rodney, who's a producer. You got all these producers who haven't got paid from you, but you selling them on the fact that, oh yeah, your name is gonna be on this. You selling them fame, but not giving them fortune. You're not paying them what they're worth. So obviously they're gonna say whatever they're gonna tell everything. When you're up here telling people that you're gonna give them this, that, or whatever, and then you don't give them nothing, I have no reason to protect you. I have no reason to do anything. Like you ain't good to me. So okay. It'd be different if P Diddy was out here paying people, being a good dude, things of that nature. If he was a good guy, I can understand why people would be like, hey, no, don't do this. But the dude hasn't paid people that he said he was going to pay. You're reaping all the benefits. All I got is a name. You know what I'm saying? I'm putting myself out here for you, and you're reaping all the benefits from it. That's fucked up. You're getting over on people. And 50 was like, nah, fuck that. You want to be part of this documentary? Cool, I'll pay you. You want to be part of this? I'll pay you. You got the footage? I'll pay you for it. You got any stories? I'll pay you to tell it. Whatever you want to say it. I'm going to pay you for it. My thing is, no one has a reason to lie. What do they have to lie for? They've been lied to this whole time. They have no reason to lie to about any of these stories. Would it be exposing P. Diddy? Yeah, but for good reason. You know what I'm saying? If I tell a person, oh yeah, bro, I got you, bro. Yeah, just give me $500,000. I give you $2 million once I get it back. What that sound like? A bunch of fucking lies. You have no reason to believe me. You're believing me off a word, but your actions so far have said otherwise. Have you paid any of your artists on your label? No. Can anyone name me an artist that was bigger than Biggie on Bad Boy's label? Think about this, right? So, and I thought about this too. When Motown had their 25-year celebration, their biggest artist, Michael Jackson, you know what I'm saying? They celebrated 25 years. P. Diddy wanted to do that same thing with Bad Boy. You know what I'm saying? And what did they do? They had this big thing for Biggie Smalls, and they brought out Lil Kim and all of that. That's it. All we heard was a bunch of tracks from him, and then we had a big tribute for Biggie Smalls. That's it. And it's like, okay, like you wanted to have this whole thing on the BET Hip Hop Awards, and your biggest name is gone, but you made sure everyone saw him only. Like, come on, bro. And then on top of that, you dropped the Biggie movie, Notorious. You dropped the Biggie movie on his life and everything like that. You like it was cool for you to you to make money off of his name, make a movie, put his kid in it, put his mom in it, and things of that nature. Like you made sure to do all these things. You know what I'm saying? So to me, it was like, okay, or telling the story of Big, and even his mom was, she only did it because she's like, oh, this is my son's movie, my grandson's gonna be in it, why not? You know what I'm saying? So to her it was like, okay, cool, but she didn't like me Diddy that much either, only because like when he was murdered, she still don't know who or why, you know what I'm saying? But she, R.I.P. to her. She passed away a few years back. But even she didn't mess with she didn't mess with Diddy that much either. She didn't trust him either, and I don't blame her for that. Obviously, you're around because that's your son's name. This just happens to be his legacy. So I still remember the promo videos, and everything for that movie. Her and P Diddy was on 106 and Park producing promo on the movie and everything. So obviously, but even to her, she still wants to know why. She still wants to know why, and she never got her answer, and it sucks because she's no longer here either. So we just want to know like what was the reason, but this would be the reason. Fucking P Diddy, and that's the sad part, man. And the fact that people are mad at 50 for dropping this documentary is insane to me. How you gonna shoot the messenger, but not get the message? Like the message is this nigga's a monster, and he deserved to be exposed for it. For drugging women, sleeping with them, beating them, recording them, and all these things. I'm not gonna get into the sexual stories with him and Cassie. I'm not doing that. I'm not getting into that because that, yeah, y'all go ahead and watch that. I don't want to get into that because that's yeah, yeah. I'd rather not get into that. That was crazier. Yeah, that whole thing. I was like, yeah, this ain't. Yeah. Anywho, but yeah, that shit was wild. That the sex stories was wild. I ain't gonna lie. Sex stories was crazy. The dude is, yeah, something's wrong with the guy. I ain't gonna lie. But yeah, if y'all want to go watch that documentary, I highly recommend it because you'll get your own opinion. Everybody has their own opinion about the whole Diddy situation. Me personally, like I feel as though dude is crazy and he's not gonna change. Obviously, I mean, if you got this money, you're not going. You would have changed years ago. You're not gonna change now. So to me personally, like yeah, but the documentary was crazy, and you know, I feel as though I think 50 for dropping this documentary. I ain't gonna lie, he a G for this one. I ain't gonna hold you, and I love it. Because if anyone needs to expose people, him and Cat Williams, him and Cat Williams doing anything right now. But yeah, if you want to go watch, the documentary, like I said, it's on Netflix. It's called P Diddy: The Reckoning. I highly recommend it. You know what I'm saying? Especially if if you big on hip hop and you know about the Diddy stories or whatnot. Definitely highly recommend you watch it for yourself. You know. But yeah, if you've been rocking with me this long, I appreciate it. Go ahead and drop a like, comment, subscribe. Peace.